Hello, this is ThoughtsWithTee. Welcome to another episode of Gems Interrupt. My name is Oluwa. If you're a Bible person, you probably already know the story of Jonah. And if you're not, well, welcome. I will tell you a bit of it. So we know the story of Jonah, right? I was reading it, and at some point it just hit me that the story of Jonah is essentially a love story. And I'm not talking about the people of Nineveh because theirs is pretty obvious. They were about to be destroyed, and God sent them someone to bring a message of hope, restoration, repentance to them. Should they accept it, then there would not be destruction again. Sodom and Gomorrah, I don't know if they had this opportunity, but I know that they were destroyed. So, the people of Nineveh, just it's pretty obvious, right, that God was very kind to them. But there's another person who this story is really about. Because after the people of Nineveh repented, this story continues. So this story is truly about Jonah, and it is a love story. I'm serious. I'm about to show. This is not even about Jonah running away from God. This is about God just unconditionally showing love towards Jonah. Just loving up on Jonah all the way. Because God is God Almighty. He doesn't owe us an explanation. But He's here visualizing things and creating scenarios and making things up and bringing up trees and taking them down just to help Jonah understand something, just to show Jonah a picture, just to help Jonah see things differently. And asking Jonah questions, having conversations with Jonah and taking Jonah here. The whole story is really just about God showing Jonah love. So from Jonah chapter 1, from verse 1, now the word of the Lord came to Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry out against it, for their wickedness has come up before me. So, God literally sends Jonah to a particular city, Nineveh, to go and preach to them because their wickedness has come up before God. The next verse says, but Jonah arose to flee to Tarshish. So we know this story, right? So the beginning is literally God asking Jonah to go and preach to some people for him. Now, I'm going to read something so that we can understand what's going on here. And it is, in fact, in Ezekiel. It's in Ezekiel chapter 33 from verse 8. So Ezekiel 33:8, when I say to the wicked, O wicked man, you will surely die, and you do not speak to warn the wicked from his way, that wicked man will die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at your hand. Nevertheless, if you want the wicked to turn from his way and he does not turn away, I will still die, but you have delivered your soul. Therefore you, O son of man, say to the house of Israel. So it continues. But the other thing that is now verse 8. When I say to the wicked, O wicked man, you will surely die, and you do not speak to one the wicked man, that wicked man will die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at your hand. That means, as God has told Jonah to go to the city of Nineveh and speak to them, if Jonah does not go, and that wicked and those people, they die in their sin, you see their blood, God will require their blood from Jonah's hand, as if it was Jonah who killed them. Imagine God requesting the blood of a whole city from Jonah's hand. That was what was about to happen to Jonah if he didn't go to speak to those people and they died. Jonah is running away, and yet God chasing down after Jonah, trying to prevent, because these are not the first sinners that ever existed in this world. Sodom and Gomorrah, they were destroyed. Now God sent Jonah to these people. If these people die or these people live, it's their decision, it's their choice if they accept the message of God to them. But Jonah, if he does not go and send this message to them, should they die, their blood will be required from Jonah's hand. So you see how God is chasing down after Jonah just to bring this guy out. So let us see verse 17. So in verse 17, now the Lord had prepared a great fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. So Jonah ran away. I would try to go to another city. I would probably know this story. When he was in the boat, there was like a tempest, like there was storm in the sea, and they had to throw him out. But God had prepared fish to go and catch Jonah. So the fish just swallowed Jonah, and he was in the belly of that fish for 3 days. Now chapter 2 verse 1 says, and Jonah prayed to God from the fish's belly, and he said, so while Jonah is in the fish belly, his brain and his mind starts to return back to him. Thank God, Jonah is a child of God, and his heart is coming back to God. In verse 10, it says, so the Lord spoke to the fish, and it vomited Jonah. As Jonah starts to pray and everything, God just spoke to the fish to vomit him out, and he literally vomits him out. Okay. And then chapter 3 from verses 4. And Jonah began to enter the city on the 4th day's walk. Then he cried and said, yet 40 days to Jonah starts to talk to these people about God. And then in verse 10, it says, then God saw their works, that they turned from their evil way, and God relented, and so those people repented, and God didn't destroy them again. Chapter 4 from verses 1 to 4, but it displeased Jonah exceedingly, and he became angry, so he prayed to the Lord and said, Lord, was not this what I said when I was still in my country? Therefore I fled previously to Tarshish, for I know that you are a gracious and merciful God. Thank God is gracious and merciful, because he's being gracious and merciful to you too, dear Jonah. Okay. You are gracious and merciful God, slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness, one who relents from doing harm. Therefore now, O Lord, please take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. So he literally tells God to kill him, because it's better for him to die than to live, because I think those people of Nineveh were like really wicked and evil people, and he wanted them to be punished for their wickedness. That's why he actually didn't want to preach to them, I guess, but God was having mercy on them. So God says to me, verse 4, then the Lord said, is it right for you to be angry? So this is almost literally like God treating Jonah like last born. Like, my baby, come now. I know that I forgave them and they've repented and they were wicked people before, but is it right for you to be angry? So Jonah went out of the city and, he sat somewhere. So in verse 10 and verse 11, but the Lord, so God made a tree to grow up that had like a guard, and there was a lot of sun. So that guard was like an umbrella that covered Jonah. And then that guard a worm came and ate it all up. So this didn't happen in like one day, which is not usual, because it takes a while for a tree to grow up and have a fruit and develop. But this thing happened very quickly. And then Jonah was annoyed that, and this thing that was covering me from the sun, now it is destroyed. Then God asked Jonah again in verse 9. Then God said to Jonah, is it right for you to be angry about the plants? And then Jonah replied, it is right for me to be angry, even to death. Last born behavior. Made me realize Jonah was a last born. In verse 10, but the Lord said, you had pity on the plants for which you have not labored, nor made it grow, which came up in one night. Imagine, an entire plant grew up in one night and perished in a night. And should I not pity Nineveh, that great city, in which are more than 120 persons, who cannot discern between right hand and their left, and much livestock? So probably these are like children that don't know anything, and more like a lot of animals. So God is like, should he not have mercy on them? And then this is where God ends it. So we can see from chapter 1 verse 1, God telling Jonah to go preach, and Jonah trying to run away. And we can see just how God arranged for a fish, and the fish is spitting him out, and he's going and he's praying and all of that. And the whole thing is just a love story. An entire love story of God chasing down after Jonah. Because now we've already read Ezekiel to see that if God asks you to preach to someone and you don't, well, should that person die in their sin, the blood of that person will be required at the hand of you that didn't preach to the person. So this is literally God chasing after Jonah to make sure that punishment does not come on him. So God is entirely babying Jonah. After Jonah does this, Jonah is annoyed. God is still pursuing him, explaining to him what is actually going on here and why God is having mercy on those people in Nineveh. So this is like a really big love story, and I'm not sure that I love or see it as a love story, but the love angle just hits me at some points that the book of Jonah is really a love story of God chasing after Jonah and preventing Jonah from being destroyed, and explaining his actions to Jonah. I'm quite impressed with God. God is a lover. And even what God said in that last verse, that there are over 120 persons that cannot discern between their right and their left. So God is so careful that he's actually taking note of everyone. And he's even caring so much about the animals also. Wow, I'm impressed with God. He's a real lover. If you want to have God in your corner, he cares about his own. Yeah, if you don't yet have God in your corner, you can't really say that, oh, I'm a child of God and all of that. Today is an opportunity to pray, surrender your life to God, tell God what all the things that you have done, as many as you can remember, that are not right. Just ask for his forgiveness and invite him into your heart and into your life. You become his child, and he will hold your hand and guide you and help you and walk with you even as you live your life, and help you to be closer to him, and help you to just live right and live in the way he wants you to live. Okay. This brings us to the end of today's episode. Till I come your way again, my name is Oluwatoyin. Bye.